Oh, hey.
What's up with the face? You look stressed.
I'm just doing some research. Was today weird for you?
Yeah, how'd you guess?
Columbus Day.
Or Native American Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day? It's weird, right?
Yeah, some of the teachers at my school really don't like Christopher Columbus and don't think he should have a holiday, but some do.
It's the same with my teachers, and even some kids got into arguments about it today. You finding any good info?
Kinda, but it's...
I have to question just how many teachers there really are that are saying Columbus Day should be a thing. I think that's interesting that Prager U is making it seem as if it's like a 50-50 issue.
It's real mixed. The side against Columbus says he was a really mean guy who spread slavery, disease, and violence to people who would have been better off if he'd never gone to the New World.
Ouch.
I know, but the side for him says he was a really courageous guy who loved exploring, inspired generations, and spread Christianity and Western civilization to people who really benefited from new ways of thinking and doing things.
That sounds really good.
I know.
What do you think? Which side is right?
I don't know. It seems really complicated, but both sides are just giving their opinions. It would be cool to hear from, the source. Huh?
So let's go ahead and look at this Columbus article then. So this is from History Channel, right? It's telling us a little bit about the attributes of Columbus, some of the things he did. So look right here, it's saying as governor and viceroy of the Indies, Columbus imposed iron discipline on the Dominican Republic. Okay. This is saying in response to native unrest, Columbus ordered a brutal crackdown in which many natives were killed in an attempt to prevent further rebellion. Columbus ordered their dismembered bodies to be paraded through the streets. So when this Prager U video is just making it seem like, we just don't know. Some people say he's bad, but a lot of people say he's good. I'm telling you, they're not going to get into that. The idea that Columbus is having bodies paraded through streets is intimidation. That's not going to be touched upon.
Huh?
You want us to go talk to Christopher Columbus, don't you?
Yeah!
Okay, sounds good. I hope he's not mean. Don't be alarmed, sir.
Don't worry about it. I'm wrapping up the wildest journey maybe that anyone's ever taken. Nothing phases me. What, you from the future?
How'd you guess?
Either that or Indians? I've kinda had a hard time telling who's what lately.
I'm Layla. He's my brother Leo, and we need to learn about you.
We live 500 years from now, and there's a holiday for you, but it's really controversial and we're confused.
Nice! I have a holiday? Well, caramba! I should! I've worked so hard to get to this point, and what I just accomplished was insane!
Will you tell us about your journey?
Allow me to give you a little biographical information so it all makes sense.
Okay.
I was raised in the port town of Genoa along the Mediterranean Sea. My papa was a wool weaver, and most boys just did whatever their dads did. But I was different. Every day I would look out at the sea and wonder what was out there beyond just what I could see.
I see what you did there. So you were curious?
See. And so as a teenager and a young man, I did everything I could to cure my curious nature. I volunteered for all kinds of crazy...
Just wanted to point out all the people that did so much for humanity that don't have holidays named after them. Is there a holiday, for example, for like Frederick Douglass? Right? How about a lot of the people that have helped cure diseases over time?
sea adventures, and I took my first one at 14.
Whoa!
Yeah, and soon sailed to Iceland, Ireland, and Africa. I taught myself to read, learned many languages, and read everything I could about geography, astronomy, and exploration, including my favorite book, The Travels of Marco Polo.
Marco!
Polo!
Okay?
Oh, it's a game we play in swimming pools. Never mind.
Never mind? Marco Polo is the greatest explorer who ever lived. In fact, the trade routes he wrote of and their closing is basically why I'm here right now.
What do you mean?
Well, first, the writings of his amazing journey to the Far East inspired me to be an explorer. But then, 40 years ago, when the Muslims conquered Constantinople and closed down the Silk Road, they made it impossible to get by land from Europe to Asia. And that opened up the desire and opportunity to figure out a path by the sea.
What was so important about getting from Europe to Asia?
This is an article from National Education Association. So wanted to point out with that video, they spend all this time going into like little details of Columbus and his life, the things he studied. And this is sometimes how history curriculum works. They spend so much time diving into insignificant details that there's no time left to cover broader main idea pictures that would help us to understand like if he should be celebrated or if he should be viewed as a villain or at least like a sketchy person, right? So this is right here in this paragraph. It's saying, like da Gama, on a second voyage, Columbus introduced shocking practices, including cutting off native hands if they did not pay his quarterly gold tax. Okay, he started the transatlantic slave trade in native people from west to east. Okay, and then also it highlights, look at this quote, like Columbus noted, girls from 9 to 10 are now in demand. Right? So that begs the question, why is PragerU not covering that? There's a reason for it. With that, right, when it talks about Columbus and young girls, there's so many people that are very right-leaning that are big, like QAnon people, right? So you would think that this emphasis on like saving the children, right? Tim Ballard, our children are not for sale. You would think that these people would be rallying against Columbus, that they would be really upset with it. But the problem is a lot of these people, Alex Jones types, Tim Ballard types, they're not interested in really just analyzing truth. Like they have audience capture and they're pumping out a specific message. They're on a team, right? They're not looking to analyze accurately the merits of Columbus. They're not doing that in good faith.
Yo, we want to trade. They have so much cool stuff in places like India, China, and the Spice Islands.
Let me guess. Spices.
Smarty pants. If you tried our Middle Ages European food, you would know how much we need those spices.
So you wanted to get spices from Asia and make a lot of money?
No, I wanted to explore the world and see things that nobody where I'm from had ever seen before. But I didn't have enough money for a crazy sea adventure, so I had to get a sponsor. I needed to convince a really rich person to pay for my trips.
Ah, so you had to be persuasive and tell somebody that paying for your trip would make them even more money. You get to explore, and they get spices and stuff from Asia to sell and make a profit.
Correcto! So since the Muslims had cut off all the land trade routes to Asia, and we Europeans still wanted Asian things, I came up with a crazy plan to get there by sailing west.
Why was that crazy?
Because no one knew if it could be done.
Is that because people thought the world was flat?
No, that's a myth. Since the time of the ancient Greeks, educated people have known the world is round and could possibly be sailed around. But Earth was believed to be so big that with so much ocean between Europe and Asia, no way could a ship hold enough food and water for its crew to survive a westward journey between the continents.
You thought differently?
I did my own calculations and thought maybe could be done. I might have played with the numbers a bit, but I was desperate to give it a try.
Sounds like your sponsor needed to be desperate, too.
I first asked the King of Portugal, but his advisors told him my plan would never work, so he said no. Then I tried Spain, and they said no too. But after 6 years of bugging their king and queen, Ferdinand and Isabella, I finally got them to agree to pay for my voyage west out to the great unknown.
It took 6 years?
Why did they finally give in?
Only they can know for sure. But it's probably no coincidence that after hundreds of years of fighting to kick the Muslim invaders out of their country, in what was known as the Reconquista, the Spanish monarchs sent me on a mission to find new trade routes and maybe even find gold and riches.
So Spain was broke and needed money. They were desperate.
You said it, not me. But Ferdinand and Isabella took a wild chance on my crazy idea. And here we are! I'm now sailing back to Spain to show off all kinds of amazing things I found and tell of the wonders of the lands I've seen.
Okay, now that we have the backstory, we've got some questions. There are a lot of people in our time upset about how you acted once you found all these amazing things in these new lands.
Ah, that's right. You said I'm controversial.
You have no idea.
I've got nothing to hide. Ask away.
Okay, first,
So we can see there's definitely an effort to humanize Columbus by PragerU as they're outlining all of the things that he studied. We're going to see if they go into as much detail with maybe some of the more controversial or horrendous actions that Columbus did.
your sailing plan was right and all your doubters were wrong.
Well, they were wrong that my crew and I were going to die because after 10 weeks of sailing west, we spotted land.
Your trip was 10 weeks?
You can't even handle a 2-hour car ride.
Ah, greatness requires patience.
You know the land you found wasn't India, right?
Really? Caramba! I suspected something was a little off, but my calculations suggested I had reached India, or at least the Far East.
So what happened when you met the native people, who obviously discovered the land before you did? The Indians?
The first people we met were great. The Taino. They were peaceful, curious, and really helpful. I could tell right away that they were highly intelligent. They even were able to quickly mimic everything we said to them. I ordered my men to treat them well.
The opposite end, ideologically, of Prager University. But this is just like a primary source here, right? There's other education sources that are going to show his journal. So Columbus said with 50 men, we could subjugate them and make them do whatever we want, right? So that's how he's talking of like the native people. So PragerU saying, like through the voice of Columbus, I ordered my men to treat them well. That doesn't give a full accounting. Okay, talks about slave raids. Columbus launched massive slave raids, rounding up 1,600 Tainos, okay, which the best 500, perhaps 550, were selected to be shipped to Spain. So again, it's just this idea, we want students to, that's fine if they do learn about specifics of Columbus studying, if they learn specifics of his funding and that he had to convince them to fund his expedition. But we also want them to understand the negative aspects as well. We want students to be well-rounded and to be able to critically think. And so that's one reason why a lot of people are critical of Prager University, because they say that they cherry pick information. They omit information that doesn't fit a specific narrative.
Sorry, Mr. Columbus, but I heard at school that you spoiled paradise and you brought slavery and murder to peaceful people.
Leo?
Sorry, it's what I read and heard at school.
Caramba! Those are some accusations. The place I discovered was beautiful, but it wasn't exactly a paradise of civilization, and the native people were far from peaceful.
But you just said the Taino were peaceful.
They pretty much are, but there are other tribes who aren't. The Taino I had met had cuts and scars and bruises all over them. I asked why, and they told me about the Caribs, who are vicious, warring cannibals.
Cannibals? Like they
Eat people, see,
Whoa!
right? Hey, all the things that are bad in the world I come from, jealousy, lying, murder, war, it all exists in the land I just found too. But in Europe, we draw the line at things like eating people and human sacrifice. Some of the native folks from where I just left do those things regularly. So, these people in your time who think it was a peaceful paradise are misinformed. Or lying.
Yeah, but what about slavery? You didn't deny that.
Deny? No. Slavery is as old as time and has taken place in every corner of the world, even amongst the people I just left. Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no? I don't see the problem.
Well, in our time, we view slavery as being evil and terrible.
Ah, magnifico! That's wonderful! I am glad humanity has reached such a time. But you said you're from 500 years in the future? How can you come here to the 15th century and judge me by your standards from the 21st century? For those in the future to look back and do this is, well, estúpido.
So the argument of presentism, that's kind of the idea that Columbus is saying there, where he's like, you should not judge me by the standards of your time. Okay, if we really look at that, we can see that Columbus had people that were contemporaries, people that were from his own time, like Bartolome de las Casas, for example, and they wrote about the things that Columbus was doing. Okay, they were against what Columbus was doing. Okay, so Columbus, and like by people of his own time, he was accused of abusing natives that he sent back to Spain. Okay, de las Casas, right? So a Catholic, basically like a Catholic priest, historian. Okay, he's viewed as the greatest supporter of Indigenous rights for his writings, but he's extremely critical of Columbus. He's extremely critical of Spanish conquistadors at this time. So the idea of like, oh, we're just judging Columbus by the standards of today, well, you can make the argument that he was judged by people from his time as well.
Are you calling me dumb?
Certainly not. I can tell you're a very smart young lady. But the idea of throwing away the past because of your present values is... Listen, I love and am thankful for the ancient Greeks, but they did lots of things that here in 1493 I do not agree with. They permitted lifestyles and worshiped gods that, as a Christian, I think is very bad. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't respect and honor all the incredible and amazing things they did.
So, good and bad is based on the time you live in?
That is a great question. I told you I knew you were smart. Some things are clearly bad, no matter when they happen. But for other things, before you judge, you must ask yourself, what did the culture and society of the time treat as no big deal? Not everyone can time travel as you do and see how normal becomes very not normal.
Some things are, some things aren't. Sounds complicated.
It is, and so is life. And history can be too. If people in your time want to celebrate me for being a perfect hero, then they are very mistaken. Only my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is perfect, and I hope to spread his teaching to all the lands I find that don't know his name. But if people in your time want to celebrate the guts I had to get this journey approved, start it, survive it, and get back to tell about it, well, that seems pretty good for any time and age.
I think you're right. Thanks for answering our questions, Mr. Columbus.
You're a courageous explorer, and you've given me a lot to think about. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, kids. Now, let me lock you up and show you to the King and Queen of Spain. Just kidding. Safe travels, my friends.
Bye.
Columbus sure had a crazy life.
He made 3 more journeys across.
And so there's times where conservatives, they see challenges to Columbus as challenges to the narrative of America itself. And so if they're able to keep Columbus as a hero, it's basically defending against what they view as anti-American revisionism, right? So critiques of Columbus, things like slavery, brutality, genocide, basically people on the right, they're sometimes saying that these things will lower pride in America. They'll lower pride in the US, right? So you see these culture wars kind of over Columbus, where Columbus becomes a proxy for larger fights within how US history is taught. So US history is often just like a battleground of ideas, right? Whose story is being emphasized, what narratives are being emphasized. And so conservatives, they want there to be an emphasis on like Western values, Christian civilization, exploration, where progressives, they're more likely to often want like Indigenous perspectives, an analysis of like violence, colonial violence, and how there's costs of empire, right? And there's also religious undertones with Columbus, right, where Columbus is often portrayed as fulfilling like a divine mission, bringing Christianity to the New World, right? So this does resonate with people that have like Christian values. They like the idea of like of Columbus and his story being special and fulfilling like maybe missions of Christianity, right? And so we just want to make sure that like basically people understand both sides to it. People are complicated. Was Columbus like the most evil person that ever lived? Like, probably not. But did he do some sketchy things? Should kids learn about some of the negatives and the positives? Yes.
the ocean to the New World.
And it seems like most of the negative reports about him come from people who were his competition for things.
I don't think Christopher Columbus was a villain. And maybe he wasn't a hero, but he sure did some heroic things that are definitely worth celebrating.
And a lot of the things we judge him for now were just normal in his time. You never know, Leo. Maybe some of the things we're told are fine today will be considered evil or crazy in the future. But being courageous and wanting to explore the world are things worth admiring in any century.
There's people that are definitely critical of PragerU. I've been critical of them in the past. I made a lot of videos critiquing some of the claims they made. That last part, I'll give some credit for, right? When they have the kids kind of reflecting, saying maybe some things that we consider unethical or that we consider, or maybe things that we do today will in the future be considered unethical, right? That's showing like a level of maybe critical thought. Maybe it is promoting a level of critical thinking, even if they oversimplified some of the Columbus arguments, right? And I'm pretty confident the people that work for Prager, they believe in what they're doing. They believe that they're exposing kids to good ideas, right? But just kind of some things to look at with their videos.